Good morning, everyone. Every December, we ask ourselves the same question: where did this year go? We look back not with celebration, but often with regret. Time, once again, outran our intentions. We don't lose time because it moves too fast. We lose time because we move too slowly on what truly matters. 2026 is not just another year, it is a checkpoint, a mark in time where the world will be more competitive, more digital, more uncertain, and more full of opportunity than ever before. The question is not what will the world look like in 2026. The real question is, who will you be when you arrive? Let me give you 5 things you must do before 2026, not to be successful by the world's definition, but to be fulfilled by your own. We all want to make progress. We chase goals, achievements, recognition. Yet if you strip all that away, most of us are simply trying to make sense of our lives. We wake up and go to work, day after day, doing what we believe is expected of us. We follow paths laid out by parents, teachers, or society. And often, we never take a moment to ask the most important question we can ever ask ourselves: why? There's a story I once heard about a man who spent years climbing a ladder to reach the top. He pushed harder than everyone else, sacrificed sleep, relationships, joy, convinced that once he made it, life would finally feel right. And one day he did reach the top. He accomplished everything he believed would make him happy. But when he looked around, he realized the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. That's what happens when we chase success without purpose. There are 2 most important days in a person's life: the day they are born and the day they discover why. Purpose is not something you invent. It's something you uncover. The problem is, most people wait for life to give it to them. They wait for the promotion, the title, the material validation to make them feel valuable. But purpose doesn't live in outcomes. Purpose lives in intention. If you look closely, the most fulfilled people are not the ones who have the most. They're the ones who serve the most. They don't wake up asking, "What can I get?" They wake up asking, "What can I give?" They might not have perfect clarity every day, but their actions are consistently aligned with something bigger than themselves. Purpose isn't found in comfort, it's found in challenge. To discover your why, you must ask yourself, what am I willing to struggle for? Because the things you are passionate about are not the things that feel easy. They're the things you care enough about to go through the difficult parts. If you're willing to endure long nights, rejection, criticism, if you're willing to keep showing up even when no one sees you, that's purpose at work. We often believe our purpose must be something extraordinary, a world-changing idea, a revolutionary movement. But purpose doesn't need to be loud, it just needs to be true. A teacher who believes in the potential of every child. A nurse who doesn't just treat symptoms but restores dignity. A parent who ensures love is the first language their child learns. These are ordinary acts powered by extraordinary intention. Here's the challenge: if you don't discover your purpose, life will give you one by default. It will convince you that your value comes from comparison, that you must run faster, earn more, look better. But when your why is clear, your how and what follow naturally, decisions become lighter, sacrifices feel worthwhile. You no longer chase success, you attract it, because everything you do is congruent with who you are. Think about a compass. It doesn't tell you how fast to go. It doesn't guarantee an easy path. What it does is something far more powerful. It tells you if you're moving in the right direction. Purpose is that compass. It won't remove obstacles, but it will make the journey meaningful. We spend so much time trying to be impressive, but the world doesn't need people who are impressive. It needs people who are impactful. And impact starts when you stop asking how to lead a successful life and start asking how to live a significant one. You find purpose when you stop measuring your life by what you've achieved and start measuring it by what you've contributed. So before 2026 arrives, take time to sit with yourself, not with your goals, not with your expectations, but with your truth. Ask yourself, what do I want to be remembered for? What problem am I here to solve? Because the world is not waiting for more experts. It's waiting for more believers. People who are driven not by ambition, but by conviction. When your why becomes clear, your energy shifts. You wake up not because you have to, but because you get to. You speak not to impress, but to impact. You work not just to succeed, but to serve. And that's when life stops happening to you and starts happening for you. Purpose won't arrive with applause. It begins in quiet moments of honesty, and once you find it, everything else becomes secondary. Because success without purpose is achievement without fulfillment, but purpose gives meaning to every moment. Before 2026, don't just chase the future. Discover the reason you want to create it. We live in a world that celebrates visibility. The number of followers, the size of one's network, the strength of one's influence, all are seen as indicators of success. But visibility and connection are not the same thing. You can have thousands of contacts, you can smile in pictures with influential people, you can sit on tables of prestige and still feel profoundly alone. The truth is, success is not achieved alone, but neither is fulfillment. And while most people spend time expanding their network, few invest in building real relationships. Networking is transactional. It's built on the question, what can you offer me? But human connection is transformational. It asks instead, how can I support you? One is based on utility, the other is based on understanding. One fades with opportunity, the other deepens with adversity. Real connections are not made in moments of convenience, but in moments of need. Think of the people you call when something goes wrong. Not the ones who would congratulate your success, but the ones who would stand by you in your failure. Those people are not part of your network, they are part of your support system. The difference between achievement and resilience often lies in who stands beside you when things aren't working. In business, we often admire those who appear independent, those who did it on their own. But that's never the full story. Behind every success story is someone who believed in someone else before the world did. Someone who made them feel seen, valued, capable not because of what they'd achieved, but because of who they were becoming. The most powerful leaders are not those who command the most compliance, but those who inspire the greatest trust. Trust is not built through credentials or charisma. It's built through consistency. It's the small moments when you show up without being asked, when you listen without preparing a response, when you care without expecting recognition. People don't remember the words you said. They remember how they felt in your presence. In today's world, relationships are losing to relatability. Too many people present curated versions of themselves to fit in, but in doing so, they fail to connect. Because connection doesn't happen when we're perfect, it happens when we're real. We build strong relationships not by impressing others, but by being vulnerable enough to let them understand who we truly are. There's a quote I love, "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together." Too often we choose speed over sustainability. We think building genuine relationships takes time that could be spent advancing our goals. But what if the real advancement isn't measured by how quickly we get somewhere, but by the strength of the people we arrive with? The greatest risk is not being unsupported today. It's waking up in the future with success and no one to share it with. Having people in your life who believe in you not for what you do, but for why you do it, that is an asset no platform can generate. When you surround yourself with people who challenge your thinking, who hold you accountable, who remind you of your values when ambition blinds you, that is when growth becomes sustainable. Building relationships requires something most people avoid: presence, not just being physically there, but emotionally available. It means listening fully, caring genuinely, celebrating others when they win, and showing up when they don't. It means giving without measuring. It means seeing people not as stepping stones, but as companions. There is strength in numbers, but there is power in unity. Before 2026, focus less on who knows your name and more on who trusts your character. People will forget the accolades you achieve, but they will never forget the way you made them feel safe to be themselves. The goal is not to have people you can lean on when you're strong, but people who will carry you when you fall. Because one day you will fall, and in that moment no amount of followers, no number of connections, no polished image will matter. What will matter is who answers the phone at 2 a.m. The most fulfilling journeys are walked hand in hand with people who believe not just in your possibilities, but in your purpose. Success can be pursued with efficiency, but significance is only achieved through humanity. Before you chase the next achievement, pause and honor the relationships that make achievement worthwhile. Because at the end of the day, it won't matter how many people knew you. It will matter how many people truly knew you and cared anyway. We live in a time where knowledge is everywhere. We have access to more information in a single day than entire civilizations had in a century. Yet with all this progress, the irony is this: many people are falling behind not because they lack intelligence, but because they stopped learning. In a world that is constantly evolving, the greatest risk is not ignorance, it's believing that what you know today will be enough tomorrow. There was a time when being an expert mattered. Today, being adaptable matters more. Because the landscape is changing faster than any one of us can keep up with. Industries are being reinvented, technologies are replacing roles, and what once gave people an edge is now just the starting point. The people who will thrive are not those who know the most, but those who are most willing to unlearn, relearn, and stay curious. Learning, real learning, is not about accumulation. It's about transformation. It's the willingness to say, I may not know the answer, but I'm willing to explore it. That humility is what keeps minds open. The danger isn't in being wrong, it's in refusing to evolve when the truth changes. Too many individuals cling to what worked before, not realizing that what was once their strength can become their limitation. Think about this. Children are naturally curious. They ask questions not to prove their intelligence, but to understand. They aren't afraid of not knowing. In fact, they embrace it. But somewhere along the journey to adulthood, people stop asking questions and start giving answers. They start protecting their reputation instead of expanding their capacity. That's when learning stops. That's when growth stops. The leaders who make the most impact are not the ones who announce their expertise, they're the ones who practice openness. They walk into rooms not trying to be the smartest, but trying to be the most teachable. Because they understand that every person they meet, every challenge they face, every failure they endure holds a lesson that can move them forward. There is a simple truth. The future does not belong to the strongest or the smartest, it belongs to the most adaptable. And adaptability is powered by learning. The moment you believe there's nothing new to learn, you begin to lose relevance. We only fall behind when we stop growing. But learning is not just about professional development, it's deeply personal. It's about seeing the world through new perspectives. It's about understanding ourselves better. Real learning challenges our assumptions, disrupts our comfort, and forces us to think differently. And that discomfort is essential, because growth never happens inside the boundaries of what we already know. People often say they don't have time to learn, yet the most successful individuals are the ones who intentionally carve out time for reflection, reading, exploring new contexts. Not because they have more hours in the day, but because they understand that the cost of not learning is far greater than the time it takes to learn. We celebrate those who innovate, but innovation is simply the visible result of someone who never stopped learning. Someone who kept asking, what else is possible? It's not genius, it's curiosity plus persistence. There's a misconception that learning is academic, but it's not confined to books and seminars. Learning comes from listening deeply to others. From traveling, even metaphorically, into different environments. From embracing challenges instead of avoiding them. From studying failure instead of being ashamed of it. From asking better questions. Before 2026, make a commitment not to be the expert, but to be the student. Not to prove what you know, but to expand what you can learn. Read not to impress, but to understand. Engage with people who see the world differently. Practice the habit of asking why and what if more often than how do I look. We admire people who are confident in what they know. But perhaps we should admire more those who are confident enough to admit what they don't, because the willingness to learn is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. It's a declaration that your potential is greater than your current position. One day, you may be praised for what you know, but you will be defined by how you grow. Understanding may bring success, but curiosity sustains it. The world will not wait. Technology will not slow down. The future will not adapt to us. We must adapt to it. And that begins with choosing to learn every day with intention, because in the end, it is not the amount of knowledge that makes us powerful. It is the willingness to keep learning when others believe they already know enough. Most people grow up believing that failure is something to avoid. We are taught that failure is embarrassing, that it is a sign of weakness, that if you stumble along the way, it somehow reflects who you are. So, we build lives designed for safety, designed to minimize risk, designed to prevent any situation where we might fall short. And in doing so, we unknowingly limit not just our outcomes, but our potential. Because the truth is, failure is not evidence of inadequacy, it is proof of effort. Think about anyone you admire who has achieved something meaningful. Not one of them got there without failure. They didn't avoid it, they embraced it. They didn't see failure as the opposite of success, they saw it as part of it. Failure is not a stop sign, it's a directional arrow pointing us toward where we need to improve. The people who accomplish great things are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who fail, learn, adjust, and continue. In fact, the real danger is not failure. The real danger is regret. The pain of failure is temporary. The pain of wondering what could have been lasts a lifetime. You'll never hear someone say they regret trying and failing. But you will hear countless stories of people who regret not trying because they were afraid to fail. The problem is that in our culture, we glorify perfection. We celebrate the outcomes without acknowledging the process. We showcase success but hide the struggle, and so many people believe that failure is a sign they are not good enough. But failure does not say you are incapable. It simply says you are human. And every human who has achieved anything extraordinary has met failure along the way. When a child learns to walk, they don't worry about falling. They fall repeatedly, sometimes in painful ways. But every fall strengthens their muscles, improves their balance, and shapes their coordination. Eventually, they walk, not because they avoided falling, but because they embraced it as part of the journey. Somehow, as adults, we forget that learning and failing are inseparable. We think people judge us for our failures when in reality, people are inspired by how we respond to them. Failure gives us two choices. Either we use it as evidence to give up, or we use it as fuel to rise. And rising after a fall is what people admire. It's what strengthens credibility. It's what builds character. If success was guaranteed, effort would have no meaning. Effort matters because outcomes are uncertain. When you act in the face of uncertainty, you demonstrate courage, and courage, not certainty, is what drives transformation. Think about the pioneers, the innovators, the ones who left a mark. They didn't ask, "What if I fail?" They asked, "What if I never try?" Every great innovation was first rejected or ridiculed. Every strong leader has a story of being doubted. Every invention began as an imperfect prototype. Failure was not the end, it was the beginning. Instead of asking, "How do I avoid failing?" consider asking, "How do I respond when I do?" Because whether you try something today or wait until 2026, you will fail at some point. That's not the question. The real question is, will you allow failure to stop you or shape you? The most fulfilled people are not the ones who avoid discomfort. They are the ones who walk straight into it, trusting that growth lies on the other side. Every failure contains feedback. Every setback contains a seed of insight. If you are willing to examine it instead of escaping it, failure becomes your greatest teacher. Understand this: the purpose of failure is not to defeat you. It is to refine you. It eliminates what doesn't work, so you can discover what does. It strips away ego, so you can build confidence grounded in resilience, not perfection. Before 2026, give yourself permission to fail. Not recklessly, but intentionally. Try the thing you've been postponing. Start the idea that scares you. Have the conversation you've been avoiding. Step onto the path that is uncertain, because it is better to fall while moving forward than to stand still in fear. People don't grow when they get it right. They grow when they dare to get it wrong, learn, and try again. True strength is not found in never falling. It's found in the courage to rise every time you do. There may come a moment when you fail, but if that moment leads to reflection, adjustment, and renewed effort, then it was not failure at all, it was progress in disguise. We spend much of our lives in pursuit of comfort, a nicer home, a better car, a higher position, a lifestyle that reflects success. And while there is nothing wrong with wanting a good life, the danger lies in making that our only pursuit. Because lifestyle is about what we accumulate, but legacy is about what we leave behind. One fades the moment we do. The other continues long after we're gone. The interesting thing is, most people never actually decide what they want their life to mean. They measure success by standards handed to them by the world: income, recognition, status, without ever questioning if those are the things that truly matter. We assume that once we reach a certain point, meaning will follow, but meaning isn't found in achievement. Meaning is created through intention. Think about the people who have made a lasting difference in your life. Chances are, it wasn't their wealth or their title that impacted you. It was their belief in you, their integrity, their kindness, their willingness to stand for something even when it wasn't popular. What you remember about them is not what they had, but what they gave. Legacy is never about possessions. It is always about contribution. A legacy isn't what you build when life is nearing its end. It begins in the moment you ask, "What am I doing today that will matter tomorrow?" Most people wait for big opportunities to create meaning, but legacies are built in ordinary moments. When you choose to listen instead of react, when you mentor someone without expecting anything in return, when you act according to your values even when no one is watching. We often underestimate the impact we can have. But every word you speak, every choice you make, every effort you give shapes someone's perspective. You don't need to be influential to be meaningful. You simply need to act with purpose. The smallest seed of intention, when planted consistently, can grow into something that lives beyond you. But to build a legacy, you must live with clarity. Clarity about who you are, what you stand for, and whom you serve. Without that, it's easy to chase lifestyle external success without ever building internal fulfillment. When you live for applause, your fulfillment ends when it stops. When you live for impact, your fulfillment continues even in silence. The greatest misconception is that legacy requires grand actions. It doesn't. It requires consistent actions aligned with deep principles. The goal is not to be remembered for doing something extraordinary. It's to live in a way that makes ordinary actions meaningful. Purpose is not about the scale of what you do, but the intention behind it. If you spend your life chasing comfort, you might achieve it. But comfort rarely creates change. The people who shape the future are those willing to trade convenience for conviction. Their decisions are not driven by what is easy, but by what is right. And it is that kind of intentional living that generates legacy. There will come a moment, maybe in 2026, maybe long after, when you pause and ask, did I become who I was capable of becoming? And in that moment, what will matter most is not how much you achieved, but how deeply you impacted others. It won't be about what you earned, but about what you enabled in others. Legacy is not what you leave for people. It's what you leave in people. It's the inspiration that outlives your presence, the values that echo through decisions others make because of something you taught them, the courage they find because you once demonstrated it. Yourself. To live with legacy in mind is to shift from asking, "What do I want from life?" to "What does life need from me?" It is to become less concerned with reputation and more committed to responsibility. Reputation is what people think of you. Legacy is what people become because of you. Before 2026 arrives, start living with the intention to plant seeds you may never see grow. Start making decisions your future self will thank you for, and that someone else's future will benefit from. You may not be able to change the world, but you can change someone's world, and sometimes that is how the world changes. Lifestyle ends with you, legacy begins through you, and if you must choose between being impressive and being impactful, choose impact. Because when your time here passes, people won't remember how successful you were, they will remember how significant you chose to be. So as you move toward 2026, don't just chase goals. Chase purpose, don't just build contacts, build trust. Don't just learn, grow. Don't just avoid failure. Invite it, and don't just live for today, build something that will live beyond you. Because one day, you will look in the mirror and realize time didn't run fast. You just ran slow on what actually mattered. So, before 2026 arrives, decide, are you just going to enter the future? Or are you going to become the future? Thank you.